Sorry about that. Everyone's a little worked up. Oh, come on. Not again.
It's me he's after.
Hey.
I'll buy you some time.
Hey, wait! Wait, Jill!
Not to brag or anything, but we've been seeing stars. Well, 1 star's member to be precise, since we've played a chunk of the Resident Evil 3 remake.
We've been bringing survivors here.
Here where?
My guys have converted some subway cars into a shelter. It's safe.
I'm fine.
Personal space. Okay, I get it. Let's go. Oh, come on. Who's the dipshit that closed this? Sorry, we're gonna have to go around.
Hey, what do you know about that monster?
The demo we played took place a little way into the game. Jill and Carlos have already met. We took control of Jill seeking cover in the Redstone Street subway station as she meets with members of the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service, or UBCS, and she's tasked with heading to the electric substation to get the subway's power back online. And that means heading upstairs into the city proper.
More survivors. We've got to get that train moving.
The first thing you notice when you head out onto the streets of Raccoon City is that everything's been given a slightly modernised makeover. So not only has the original's cable car been replaced with a subway line, the streets just look a little more vibrant. That's not to say that the twisted alleys and iron-gated backstreets of the original game aren't here, they've just been given a little sprucing up. There are more specific nods to the design of the original layout though, in some unlikely places.
Why did Umbrella send your team in?
We're here to rescue the civilians.
The attention to detail in the layout of these streets and how they've been brought to life really is amazing though. And, a little tip, it's worthwhile paying attention to what's been left behind amongst all the wreckage. As in the original, environmental design can help you save on ammo if you're keen-eyed and quick enough. Shooting red barrels will do exactly what you think it does. And shooting sparking generators will unleash a big old electric shock that'll stun enemies in its vicinity. These are super useful, as you can see, but perhaps best left for one big enemy in particular. New locations do pop. We especially liked Moon's Donuts, whose signage made us especially hungry despite the impending apocalypse. The original Resident Evil 3 Nemesis was notably more action-heavy than its predecessor Resident Evil 2. That's also the case here, but fans worrying about a return to Capcom's old survival shooter ways need not worry. This is still first and foremost a survival horror experience. Jill isn't any old police officer, and she certainly isn't a civilian. She's a member of the Special Tactics and Rescue Service, aka STARS, and as a result, her reflexes are just a little bit more enhanced. So, there's a new and extremely welcome dodge mechanic, and when timed perfectly, in other words, when you press the dodge button at the last possible second to avoid an enemy's attack, time will slow for just a moment, allowing you to counterattack with a well-placed headshot. Super satisfying and appropriate, given Jill's expert training. But you will need to make good use of both it and the environmental barrels and generators, because there are a lot of zombies in downtown Raccoon City, way more than you might have encountered in and around the RPD building in the Resident Evil 2 remake. And that makes sense. This is a wider area and one that'll have been more difficult to barricade against hordes of undead. Crucially, the game doesn't tilt into feeling like a full-on third-person shooter. First off, the streets are crowded and claustrophobic. You won't be getting the chance to pick off crowds of undead from afar. Zombies will pen you in and come from multiple different directions if given the chance. More than once we were jumped by zombies we had no idea were anywhere near us. They can creep up on you from under wrecked cars, jump over barricades, smash through shop windows. You need to be on your guard. They can also take multiple bullets to put down, even with headshots. Luckily, Jill herself can take a little more damage, but you'll definitely want to keep moving at all times because you simply won't have enough bullets to take down every enemy you'll encounter downtown. Here's this guy. Nemesis is every bit as scary as he should be, and even veteran Resident Evil players will be hard-pressed not to panic once he shows up on the scene. Towering over Jill and making Mr. X look like an absolute nobody, Nemesis will lay the smackdown with his fists and use his gross tentacles to grab, swipe and reel Jill in from afar. Even when you think you've got some distance, he can leap across entire areas to cut you off, forcing you to either make use of that 180-degree turn to flee or to try and dodge past him. The whole effect is utterly terrifying and disorienting, especially when there are other zombies around. Drain Demos, parasitic flea-like enemies from the original Resident Evil 3 game, return. But they've got a few new tricks up their sleeve and, dare we say it, they're way deadlier than before. In a particularly stressful section of the demo we played, Jill has to navigate the electrical substation, which has become a nest to a huge host of demos, which pursue her relentlessly from the walls, floors and ceilings as she has to activate transformers in order to get the power back online. If the monsters manage to grab her, they'll shove a hideous proboscis down her throat in a particularly gruesome animation and plant a parasite in her stomach, forcing you to use a herb or a first aid spray to make Jill puke it back up before she succumbs and dies. There's one more old but also newly designed enemy we came across in this demo. Once the power is finally back online, the group needs time to complete maintenance on the trains. So with Nemesis on her tail, Jill leads him on a merry chase to buy them that time. Here, after a nail-biting pursuit where she says the iconic line,
"You want stars? I'll give you stars." A little bit early, but still awesome.
Jill takes a detour into the sewers where she loses Nemesis, but meets something else.
Oh, God. I'm definitely burning these clothes.
Introducing the new and debatably improved Hunter Gamma. Despite looking less like a frog and more like an uncooked chicken these days, the Hunter Gamma is absolutely not a pushover. It's capable of killing you instantly if it gets too close. You'll encounter these slimy boys several times down in the sewers, and they can be extremely tricky to deal with if you don't have the appropriate flame grilling equipment. Nemesis basically chased us the whole way through a building site, forcing us to climb higher and higher up the unfinished structure as he slowly set everything around us alight. It eventually culminated in an epic fight where we finished him off with our very last bullet. Well, we say finished off. He was on fire and not looking too hot, all things considered, but come on. We all know we haven't seen the last of him. The fight really did emphasize how much more exciting perfect dodge can make the combat feel, however, while building on the solid framework that the Resident Evil 2 remake left behind. In fact, we mean it as a good thing when we say that Resident Evil 3 plays a lot like the 2019 RE2 remake. The HUD is the same, maps work in a similar way in that areas are left red when there are still things to uncover there and blue when they're fully searched, Jill's inventory space will be increased by finding hip pouches, and there will be plenty of files and thoughtful environmental puzzles to ensure that Jill is exercising her intellect as much as her itchy, tasty trigger finger, including a fun little callback to the Aquacure lady.
Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? You guys are the ones who caused all of this!
Whoa.
We're still curious as to how Carlos's playable sections will be expanded upon, and how the game will just be made bigger in general. But what we can safely say is that all the new enemies we've met so far are giving us the fear already.